Hello students, gonna make another video here on plugging the Kreg holes with oak plugs, and talk about some sanding and some other things. So let me put this thing on and make sure I'm got a good angle. I think that'll work. All right, so as you can see, I've got some plugs here, and I'm not going to plug the top. I'm just showing you the process. I have glued the plugs in pretty much everywhere else, right? When you open up the doors, you're not going to want to see those holes. So I've got those glued in, and we're going to sand them flush, and it'll look a lot better, more aesthetically pleasing. So to kind of show you the process here, some of the holes take the full plug, right? But some of them, if they're in a rail or stile and it's perpendicular, it sticks out the end, so we have to sand them off. Let me show you that real quick. I'm just using my edge sander. You might come up with a different idea, but this was the fastest one that I could come up with. I've got my pliers here. Notice how I'm holding it. I'm holding it not like this, but like this, so I have better control. And it doesn't take but a second. Take it up to the pencil line that you drew, and you're basically done. If you've got a big burn mark, we could wait till it stops, and we could rub it a little bit on there, take care of any burn mark. Okay, once it's cut to size, we're ready to glue it in. Let me show you that. Pretty simple process. I got a glue spreader to help me get in the hole. Use a little glue here on the paper. Okay, and I'm just going to do a couple for you. So it doesn't take much glue. We don't want it getting out all over everything, right, and having to sand that glue out. So see that? Just a little bit of glue in there. Put your plug in. Notice how the big end goes first. Okay, the shaped end is what is going to show. All right, so you push it in, get it flat as you can, and on the other ones, much the same. Now that we've got it sanded, probably way too much glue there, but we'll never see this. The top's going on it, so I'm just demonstrating. Okay, I'm going to put it in there, and I get it flush with the end, and the rest gets sanded off, right? Another point, notice the difference in colors there, people. Try to match the colors. All right, this is a much deeper reddish oak. This is a lighter oak. So I just showed you that to make you aware of it. When you're looking on the inside, you want these things to become invisible, right? So you want to match up the color. Okay, so I did that best I could. That one I think's got a burn mark on it, so I'll sand that, and hopefully the colors will work out. Okay, so got all those holes filled that are going to see. I am not going to do the bottom. Okay, I think that's overkill. We're going to have legs on here. You'd have to lift this thing up to see them underneath there. I do have some inside here, and I'll probably try to custom make those to fit in there to fill those holes, but that's back behind the face frame, right? You'd have to crawl in this thing to see them. So but you know what, if we were taking it to contest, they'd probably look in there. So once we get the back on, they're fairly well headed, but I'll try to get something in there as well. So that's the plugging process, right? And I've told you, you can buy a plug bit and cut your own from scrap. Make good use of scrap. And then some of these I've sanded to fit like I showed you, the shorter ones. All right, so this whole project has been so far fit together with 1.25 inch coarse thread. Okay, I've got 1.5 inch here. As we put the top on, and I've got it downstairs in the CNC router right now, putting a great big Chiefs emblem on it, like this one. Okay, So when I get it up here, what we're going to do is we are going to screw from underneath 1.5 screws. The 1.25 were just a little bit too short. Okay, so that's going next. Once I get the feet on, I can do the cove on the edge here with the hand router, and the top and the foot will be our stops for that router. I'll show you that process. I'm going to put the doors on after that. Okay, we have got a lot of sanding to do. Wanted to remind you guys on the sanders, they do fill up. Okay, it's just a twist to get it off of there and shake it out in the trash. Okay, the bag's important. We don't want that dust in the air, right? And then you push it back on and a 1/4 twist, maybe even a little less, an 1/8 inch or an 1/8 turn, and it's locked in there. Okay, going with 120 first, lining up my holes. I can line up better than that. If the holes are showing, the dust will go into the bag. Now, guys, you don't want to sand the paneling. You've got probably less than a 1/64 inch of oak plywood veneer on there. You could sand right through it. If you sand it all, sand by hand 220. It's been sanded pretty smooth already, so very gentle on any of the plywood panels, inside and out. Okay, the rest of it needs sanded, and if there's any splits or you want to fill first before you sand, you're going to be looking for any pencil marks. Okay, you may have seen a bunch on the top, would be a good example. I've erased most of the others. I've got a big eraser for you, pink pearl, and it's sharp, so you can get in there, and a lot easier to erase it than it is to sand them off, right? So I'm going to be looking, when you tell me you're done sanding, I'm looking for chalk lines, I'm looking for pencil lines, I'm looking for glue, I'm looking for burn marks, I'm also looking for sharp edges. You're going to sand the whole thing. Shouldn't be any sharp edges. Don't hit the profiles too hard. We don't want to change the profile, but it shouldn't be sharp either. Okay, inside and out. Your plugs have to be flush. All right, once again, be careful sanding in corners. Don't hit your plywood. That bottom is 3/4 inch plywood. It's not a solid panel, right? So you could sand through that veneer. Look at that. It is really, really thin. Are you getting that? Okay, so don't sand much on it, if at all. Okay, what else did I want to tell you? So we're sanding as usual, 120. You get that done. Get all your burn marks and that kind of thing off first before you go to the next one. If you go to the next one, you progress too quickly, you're going to be working a lot harder with the 180 and then the 220. Okay, make sure you've got it all before you progress to the next paper. If you remember, that's how many grit we have per inch, so the 120 is coarser than the 180, and our 220 is our finest. 220 particles per inch. So that's pretty fine, isn't it, for woodworking? After that, we're ready to start talking about finishing it. We're going to spray it with lacquer. In between coats of lacquer, we use a fine steel wool to knock down any grain that wants to stand up once it gets wet. So as you can see, I got a lot of sanding to do. Okay, that's the next step. I'm going to go down and check out our CNC router of the top, see how our shop bot is working. Talk to you guys soon.